Thank you very much, Dharmachari. Started a timer here, so I've got a timer and a watch, so I'm hoping that between them and Dharmachari waving at me, I won't go over time. So before I start, I just want to say where this talk has come from, where I've written the talk from. It comes out of my experience of teaching a mindfulness course in the UK, in London, called Life with Full Attention. So this is a course, some of you might know, it's a course by a senior order member called Maitreya Bandhu, who lives and works in the UK, in London. And he's also written a book. So if you like anything that I say today, I recommend, if you're sparked off in any way, I really recommend getting the book and actually taking yourself through the course, even better attending a course if you can. So I wanted to start off with an image and actually getting you to imagine something. So I want you to imagine an iceberg. So don't hold back, think big. Think of a big iceberg. So probably you can multitask, you can look at me and listen to me and imagine this iceberg at the same time. I'm going to do it as well, so while I'm talking to you I'm going to be imagining this iceberg. So imagine this iceberg is kind of towering above the sea, say quite a cold sea. It's very big, the bit that's above the sea. And you notice as you look at the iceberg that all these kind of ghost-like figures on top of the iceberg, and they're all very busy. They're cutting away at the iceberg. They're cutting channels in the ice and they're shaping the ice. So the iceberg is taking a very particular shape. Some of these figures, as I say, they're very busy and they're all kind of, they're just getting on with what they're doing, cutting away. Also, some of the figures you see, they dip under the water, and you can just about see they're on the side of the iceberg, actually working away at the ice, cutting grooves and shaping it just under the waterline. And then, as probably everyone knows about an iceberg, the biggest bit actually is under the water. So this top bit is very big, but underneath it just goes on and on and on. And actually, we can't actually imagine how far down it goes. So some of you might have guessed what this image what it might mean, what it might possibly represent. So this image of an iceberg represents us. It represents our life. The bit above the water is what we know about our life, what we think we are, who we think we are. This bit, much bigger bit below the water, is everything we don't yet know, everything that is we are yet to live. So we are so much more than we think we are. This is me, this is my life, this is what I'm doing with my life, great, but there's so much more to us than that. But what about these figures? What are these ghost-like figures, and what are they doing with the ice? Well, these ghost-like figures are our thoughts, but not any thoughts. They're the kind of thoughts that we always think. They're the kind of thoughts that when things don't go well, we find ourselves thinking again and again and again. Why does this happen to me? Why did I come out in my car at this time? I know that the traffic in Istanbul is terrible. What are all these people doing here on the road at this time? It's these thoughts, yeah? And it's the stories that we tell ourselves out of these kind of thoughts. Why do I always make the same mistake? I've been doing this for years. Why have I not learned? So it's these thoughts that actually shape us. So it's no accident that the ice is being shaped, and there's a very physical element to the image. So they're actually shaping the ice, and actually this is how it actually is. If anyone's read anything about neuroscience, we see that is what actually goes on in our mind when we have the same sort of thought pattern again and again. The neural pathways. I'm not a neuroscientist, by the way. Wouldn't take you long talking to me to work that out. But the neural pathways get thicker and thicker. Yeah, so they strengthen. So the more we think that way, the more we think that way. It's, and so on and so on. But they're ghost-like figures because we know what thoughts are like, don't we? They're kind of insubstantial. So yes, they're doing something quite substantial, but in themselves, they are quite insubstantial. And in a way, that is sort of the gateway into the talk. The fact that they're not trustable, and that there's actually, there's a whole iceberg there. Has everyone forgotten the iceberg? That is actually the main point of the image, and that's what we can come back to. And in a way, that's why there's a talk about this subject. So, Prapanca, this word, it's a Sanskrit word. It's a very old word. It's these kind of thoughts. It's these ghost-like figures on the rock, on the ice rather, kind of cutting away, cutting patterns in the ice, cutting patterns in our mind. And it's these repetitive thoughts that we have over and over and over again. The etymology of the word, apparently it's related to a hand that is spreading out. So it's kind of like this. So, this is our mind, and it's this process of spreading out. So Prapanca, it spreads out, it proliferates. You can translate it as mental proliferation. So it's not the kind of, there's nothing bad about thinking. So let's think that the Buddha says that thinking is bad. How great that we can think. We've got these massive brains, and we can think wonderful things. We can apply ourselves deeply and come up with original thoughts and think things through and reflect and all of these things. That's hugely positive and significant. This is not Prapanca. Prapanca is, oh my God, why is this happening to me again? It's the worrying thinking. It's the persistent, angry thinking. It's repetitive. So you will all have your favourites. Everyone has their favourite flavours of Prapanca. Yeah, and they're so nice, aren't they? We like them so much, sort of, even though they can cause us so much suffering. So my favourite, one that I really love, is self-criticism. Boy, it's so much fun. If any of you don't know about it, let me tell you, it's so great. I really like to do it. And, I like to combine it. I don't like to do it on its own. I like to combine it with worry. So try it if you haven't tried it. If you haven't done something, or you've done something but you don't think you've done it very well, you could do what I like to do and think, oh, why did I do that? Why did I do that? And what does that say about me? And then you can think, oh no, now that I'm thinking about this, I'm now going to be going into this new situation like this. That's going to be terrible. And why does this keep happening? So, that's just a suggestion. You could try that. If you think my version is even more fun than your own version, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But I think probably, if I could see what you're all thinking, little speech bubbles, I might see quite a few sort of, different versions going on, like you thinking of, this is my version. So we all do it, and actually it's a very natural thing to do. we laugh, but it's tragic, isn't it? You know, here we are, we're kind of the pinnacle of evolution, walking around, as I say, with these massive brains, you know, multi-limbed kind of, you know, wonder creature, and we spend our time kind of thinking the thing that we've thought 100,000 million times before. It's like, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of tragic, isn't it? You know, we've got so much more potential. We've got the massive iceberg below, but we kind of doing this tiny little thing with our minds that's actually causing us harm. But we can be, you know, we can be kind of, we can give ourselves a break. We can be kind to ourselves and be understanding. This is it's a very natural tendency. So when, particularly when things don't go well, so when we suffer, of course we inherently want things to go well, right? We want, you know, we want today to go well. We come here, we want to have a good experience. When things don't go well, that's when we often end up in this this thinking. It's like, oh no, I wanted that, but this ended up happening. Why is that? And we think the more we think about it, it will somehow resolve it, that it will actually make it into a good experience, but of course it doesn't work like that. When things are ambiguous, when we don't know, this is prime time for Prapanca. So when we text a friend who we haven't heard from for a while, and we think, okay, I'll send them a text, and we text them, and we don't hear back from them. So we don't know why, do we? We don't know why haven't they responded? Do we just stay with not knowing? Maybe. Or maybe we end up thinking, why did I text? I know they're so busy at the moment. They didn't reply last time. I've done this. Why have I done that? What are they going to think of me? They're going to think I'm too pushy, aren't they? Why can't I just relax more with my friends? So we often, with an unknown, we want the unknown is uncomfortable. So we want to fill it with knowing, even though knowing is often a painful knowing. So when we suffer, when we don't know, these conditions give rise to Prapanca. Also, and this is really important for us now living in the modern world, the modern West, when things are complicated.
Just looking at you.
Hi, come in. Wants to hear about Prapanca.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yvette.
She doesn't have.
Doesn't have Prapanca. Cat is probably just in the moment, but hasn't got the super brain that we have.
I should have caught that mice. I should have caught that mice.
Yeah, right, maybe.
Would be the only
So the third sort of factor which really contributes to Prapanca and is particularly relevant for us is complexity. So when we have lots of options in front of us, this puts a pressure. This can put a pressure on us too. We have to decide. We want to decide the right outcome. We want to decide the outcome that's going to make us happy, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? When you've got 10 types of toothpaste to choose from in the supermarket, and you want to get value for money, you want to get the one that's going to make your teeth the brightest, but you also want to get the most ecologically friendly one, right? So you're trying to choose. It's like, which one do I choose? And you finally make a choice, and you walk out the supermarket and think, no, that was the wrong one. No. It's like, life is so complex, you know. We're on social media, people are trying to phone us, we've got 101 emails to answer. It's all of these things kind of making it difficult for us to know what's the best thing for me to do for me to be happy. So the complexity of life, the fact that we suffer, and the ambiguity, they all it's prime material for us to get into Prapanca. So we give ourselves a break that we get into this, but it's negative and quite harmful way of thinking. It's natural. but we all know that it's not. It doesn't serve us, and there's actually there's a better way to live. There's a deeper way to live. The iceberg is there, right? So let's remember that. I mean, I could just stop here, which, you know, you'd be a bit surprised at. It's a bit of a short talk, 15 minutes. Yeah, okay. It's not enough just to say what Prapanca is. Now that I've spelled this out to you, and I'm sure you've all sort of identified with it in your own lives, it's not enough just to say, oh right, okay, now I know that, I won't do that anymore. You know, I've heard what I need to hear. I'll go away, thank you very much. I'll stop that. I won't bother doing Prapanca anymore. Unfortunately, it's not quite as simple as that. We need to take a completely different approach, which would involve me being a bit warmer. So, before I spell out this different approach, just going to do a little segue side bit on what experience is like, basically what the nature of experience is like. So here we are in the world. We have our senses. In Buddhism, we count 6 senses. So we count the mind as a sense. We have incoming thoughts into the mind as a sense organ. And that's how we experience the world, right? We have contact with the world through our senses. And that contact is either pleasant, I mean we were doing this a bit in the meditation earlier, it's either pleasant, unpleasant, or somewhere in between. And so far, so good, right? So far, so straightforward. We're just, we're experiencing. Yeah, we are, in a way there's a kind of a purity to this. There's nothing that we're adding. So we've done what we've done in the past, we've got ourselves in whatever situation we're in, and we're having contact, and on the basis of that contact, it's nice, it's not nice, or it's somewhere in between. And obviously it's more complicated than that. There's pleasant parts of our experience and unpleasant parts of our experience. But that's the sort of the basis. Then we get involved, don't we? We don't just leave it at that. We're like, oh, that's nice, yes please. We're like, oh, I don't like that, I don't like you, go away. Yeah. Or the stuff that we can't really tell if we like it or not. Oh my God, this is so boring, when's it going to end? Right? And it's this activity where we're shaping ourselves. And this is where Prapanca comes in. We start objecting to the traffic, for example. Like why are we in this traffic here? And off we can go, trying to push it away. We push our experience away. Or there's something there that we really like. Nice big, you've got so much great food in Turkey, I can't think of a single thing. Great, lovely bit of burek, and you want the whole thing. So it's this. This is where we're adding. This is where we're not just experiencing. We are adding something, and in that adding, we're shaping ourselves. We're shaping. Buddha says we're creating ourselves as we go moment by moment, and this is Prapanca comes into this category here. So we need an approach basically that takes that into account. It's no good going, oh yes, that thinking, I'll just stop it. We need to actually get closer to what is going on in our experience. Yeah. So we need to get closer to the experience of liking or not liking. So we need to kind of go. Deeper into experience. So this is where mindfulness comes in. So again, we were experiencing this a bit in the meditation. But again, it's not enough just to say, right, okay, mindfulness, I'll get mindful. That will sort me out. We need to practice mindfulness in a particular way. So the Buddha gave us a teaching on mindfulness. It's called the 4 Satipatthanas. So you can translate this as the 4 spheres of mindfulness, or the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So they have an order, and they're in that order for an important reason. And they are mindfulness of the body and its movements, mindfulness of something called Vedana, which you can translate as feeling tone, mindfulness of Chitta, which you can translate as heart mind, and then mindfulness of Dharmas, which you can translate as the teachings, or what we know to be helpful. Yeah. But there's so I'm going to say a bit about each of those. But actually, Maitreya Bandhu has added in a preliminary stage, which the Buddha didn't teach, because the Buddha didn't live in such a kind of hectic, complex world as we do. So Maitreya Bandhu has added in the phase of day-to-day mindfulness. So day-to-day mindfulness is where we need to start. Unless you've all come from your meditation hut in the local forest, and you've just teleported yourself here, unless you've done that, you will probably need to be practicing day-to-day mindfulness. So day-to-day mindfulness is setting your life up in such a way that you're not in a constant chaos, and you're not constantly adding to that constant chaos. Yeah, it's getting up in the morning. It's kind of so basic. It's me saying, go to bed on time, won't you? But it's often we need that kind of advice, don't we? It's getting up refreshed, and knowing where your car keys are in the morning, and knowing where things are in the kitchen, so you're not tearing around and thinking, oh God, where's that? And then you spill your coffee, and then it's, we're not creating more chaos. And it's having enough space in your life so that you can sit down maybe at the end of the day and just go, and just reflect a bit, like, how was it today? And maybe you can go and meditate, and you're not sort of constantly on your phone. And so it's reducing inputs, it's having space, it's making sure the things that support you in your life are there. And then within that, you've got half a chance of creating mindfulness. No point really trying to meditate if you're just in the middle of a chaos. You'll be sitting there like, okay, watch the breath, and you'll be thinking of all these things. Oh God, I haven't done that. And oh God, what am I going to do? It's like, it's not going to work. We need to start broad, and then we can get more and more kind of closer to our experience. So once we've done a bit of that, and it's important to say that we don't just do a bit of each one and then go on to the next one. We need to constantly be working on all the levels. So yes, we need to start with day-to-day mindfulness, but we don't get to a point and think, tick, okay, done that, on to the next one, and then we take the next one off. We need to be working on all of them. But once we've got our foot in the door of day-to-day mindfulness, our life maybe is a little less chaotic. We can start practicing mindfulness of the body. So mindfulness of the body and its movements. So when I was writing this talk, I had an image of like a fighter, like a martial artist or a dancer. And it's like you might have met someone like this, or you've seen this on a film, like someone is really in their body. Yeah, they're very sort of elegant, they're very grounded, very graceful. They're not sort of a doddery old professor sort of He's caught up in his thoughts and banging into a wall, and it's this kind of, it's being embodied. So this is something that we can practice, and it's not it's not a magic formula, it's not mysterious, it's actually feeling what your body feels like now. So you can actually do this while you're listening to me. You can actually feel your bum on the chair, on the cushion. Again, you can multitask. You can feel those physical sensations. Yeah, and it's the contact that we have with our clothing, but it's also the internal physical sensations, particularly the emotional ones. So any sensations in the belly. So again, I really like to sort of I like to keep a good amount of tension in my belly. It's just something that I like to do. So it's like being aware of that is very helpful. If there's a tension somewhere, having awareness to it, so we can have more of our attention kind of in our experience. This is really powerful, right? Our attention is so powerful. Have you noticed it's kind of like we're walking around with laser beams, yeah? And what we do with this shapes what's inside, as it were. So because it's so powerful, we need to sort of, and because there's so much scope for putting it onto negative things, negative thoughts or awful films or all sorts of things, I don't need to tell you what they all are, we need to kind of broaden it out. We need to have our attention sort of spread out from this tight laser beam into our whole body. And I mean, sometimes just the contact, you go for a massage, you just sort of do this, it helps us be more sort of in our experience. So this is the first Satipatthana, mindfulness of the body and its movements. Once we've done a bit of that, we can do the next one. Not to say that it's ticked off and done. But once we've got some awareness in our body, we can start to notice more, and again we did a bit of this in the meditation. Is that pleasant? Is that painful? Can I really feel what that is? Again, as I say that, I notice that I'm a bit cold again, which I find a bit unpleasant, so I'm going to put this back, which is nice. So we're going on to mindfulness of Vedana, feeling tone. So as well as what we experience in our body, everything that comes in through our senses has a Vedana, including thoughts. So you think, oh, it's my birthday tomorrow, fantastic, positive Vedana. Or we might think, oh, it's my birthday tomorrow, oh no, I'm another year older, negative Vedana, yeah, unpleasant Vedana. Yeah, someone walks down the street at us and they smile, and we just have this sort of warm glow, pleasant Vedana. Our friend walks down the street and we look at them and smile, they look the other way, we get unpleasant Vedana. Yeah? So everything that comes through our senses has this feeling tone to it. And as we practice this, we're coming closer into life actually. We're coming more into our experience as our experience. We're more embodied, we're more in touch with our experience, we're more in the world. So there's something else to say on that? Yeah, actually I was going to, as you're sitting here, so I was getting you to like feel your physical experience. So maybe just notice, seeing if you can tune into your Vedana. Like maybe there are some pleasant aspects to your experience. Maybe you're nice and toasty warm by now. Maybe that feels nice. Maybe your bum might be going a bit numb, that's a bit unpleasant. Just tuning in a bit to the pleasant and the unpleasant in your experience. And maybe some that's just a bit neutral, it's It's not obviously one or the other. So as we do this, we're coming a bit closer in. So moving on to chitta, in a way we're getting to, this is the most important bit really. So chitta is mind, heart, and this is kind of what's arising on the basis of what we've been experiencing. So it includes our mood, and it's also our thoughts. Yeah. So you might be sitting here thinking, I was expecting a talk on this, but this isn't what I thought it was going to be about, for instance. Or you might be thinking, oh great, I've been interested in this for ages, this is exactly what I want to be hearing. You might be having, and there'll be a certain mood. Yeah. So again, just seeing if you can notice what you're bringing, to your experience as it is. A friend of mine did this course recently, and the person I led it with, he gave the image of YouTube clips, which I think is it's a really great image. We're probably all familiar with going onto YouTube, and oh look, there's lots of videos there. Which one do I want to click onto? So mindfulness of chitta is seeing, there's this state of mind that is just waiting for me to click onto it. The thought comes along, this talk isn't as interesting as I thought, and you think, I'll get into that. I'll see what happens when I press play on that. We have these choices, and it's which one do we go for? Yeah, and it's mindfulness of chitta is seeing what we're already doing. I'm already halfway through this hour-long clip. I hadn't even realised I was watching it, and I don't like this clip, but here I am watching it again. Mindfulness is chitta is getting to know, as it were, the YouTube clips that we like to keep on watching. Yeah. The ones that we know how they end, but we like to play them again and again just because we like to. Yeah. And I think this is so hard. I mean, it's so easy for me to sit here and say that. I mean, anyone can say that. Anyone can say, look at what you're doing with your mind. See, I said it again. It was really easy. But to actually do it is really something else. I'm sure you've grasped. Often our mood and the thoughts that we have that sort of fuel that mood, they're so important to us, aren't they? In fact, often they are the most important thing. That time when, yet again, I don't know why I keep using this image, you go out in traffic and you think, why the hell did I come out at this time? It's so compelling, isn't it? It's so hard to think, here I'm doing this thing again. Because we're so invested, aren't we? But that's where this teaching comes in. The more we are practicing being in our body, the more we're practicing living a life where we're fairly on top of our life, we're fairly organised, we're not in chaos, we're in touch with our body, we're in touch with what we like and what we don't like.